It's nice to see you again.
Yes.
I know you've been coming for several years now. My first question to you is, who designs our portfolio, our investment portfolio for the city of Warwick? What company is that?
I do not know that off the top of my head. Ernie, do you know who the investment consultant is?
He said he doesn't know. He needs Ernie to tell us.
Well, the allocations are set by, for the municipal plan, the Municipal Retirees Pension Board. They set the allocations within the plan in the various groups. The police and fire plans mirror those decisions. So the Municipal Pension Board allocates various funds. Municipal Pension, Police and Fire mirror that, and our fiscal advisor is Fiduciary Investors Advisors.
Fiduciary Investment Advisors. Thank you. So my next question for you is, have you ever spoken to Fiduciary Investment Advisors?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you look at what their rates of return are for the city of Warwick?
Their rates of return?
Yeah, right. You're saying you had the percentages up there of what we returned.
Your historical returns?
Historical, 5-year, 10-year, you had all that in your report.
Yes.
I know you don't speak with them, but do you look at their reports?
During the experience studies, we provided that information.
I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you and I had a discussion, had to be 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, about our rates of return.
Correct.
And at that time, I think it was over 8% rate of return that you were
The assumption?
forecasting.
Correct.
And then I recall two days later, you went up to the State House and revised their return to 7.5%. So that's what I'm focusing in on again today, because if we don't have realistic expectations of what our rates of return actually are, then we don't put in what we need to put in to the pension plan, because we're expecting higher rates of return than we actually get.
Okay.
Okay. So, do you know what our asset allocation mix is for the city of Warwick's funding?
It's approximately a 60-40.
That's right, it is a 60-40 split. So now I'm looking at Fiduciary Investment Advisors, thank you for telling us, Ernie, and I'm looking at their report, and it indicates that our 10-year rate of return, and that was for Police 2, that's the good pension plan. We know about the ones that are significantly underfunded, but this is a good one. One of our good ones, if you consider where we are good. Police 2 is 5.6% according to Fidelity Investment Advisors, the people that actually invest our money. And now I'm looking at page 11 of your report, and it indicates that it's for Police 2, 6.2%. So our actual rate of return over 10 years, according to the people that are investing for us, is 5.6%, but your company is reporting that our rates of return for that pension fund were 6.2%.
I don't have that report in front of me, so I can't confirm the dates, but are you sure you have the same dates, the same time period?
Yes, it's a 10-year time period.
Well, there's 10 years ending when, though?
Excuse me?
10 years ending when?
It's the same 10-year time period that you reported on that slide, that our rate of return was 6.2% for Police 2. The company that actually invests for us is reporting at 5.6.
Okay.
Do you have the reports that you just said you were given from the company you didn't know that indicate that our rate of return was 6.2%?
Not with me.
Can you?
6.2 is the calculations that we did. That's our
The
calculation.
calculations they did is at 5.6. So your calculations are over was it 0.6 off percent?
Oh, okay. So is this the report you're looking at?
This is the report from
Yeah. So
Fidelity Investments,
and it's
Fidelity Investment Advisors.
and it's as of December 31st, 2015.
It's the 10-year,
Is it as of December 31st, 2015?
yes.
Yeah, my report is as of June 30th, 2015.
Your report is as of June,
Right. The valuation date of the pension plans is June 30, 2015.
and you're saying it's 6.2,
Right.
and mine is what, a 6-month difference? And I'm at 5.6 over a 10-year period?
December 31st.
You're telling me that a 6-month calculation dropped the rate of return by 0.6%
Oh, easily.
over a 10-year period?
It can. That's only a 6% difference. We get 6%.
No, 0.6, I said.
Yeah.
6.2 to 5.6.
0.6 times 10 years would be a 6% difference total in accumulation. We get 6% swings in a quarter in the market regularly. In fact, last month we had a 3 to 4% swing by itself. So in
I'm sorry,
2008, we had a 35%.
the report I was,
2008 we had a 35% swing in 3 months. So
the report
you
I'm
got the
looking
same
at,
time period.
the report I'm looking at is September 30th, 2015, not December. So I
Okay.
apologize. So, and I'm looking at municipal, and they have a 10-year rate of return at 5.6.
Okay.
On page 13 of your report for municipal, you have a rate of return of 6.24. Okay? So we can argue about the 6-month time period, okay? But when you look at historic rates of return,
Okay.
you yourself are around 6.1, 6.2
For the last decade.
for the last decade. And over 20 years, it's the same. Have you looked at that?
Yes.
Okay. It's 6.1 over 20 years.
Okay.
And you're telling us that we should expect 7.5%.
The current assumption is 7.5%.
Based on what?
Based on, we have a survey of investment consultants putting out expectations over the next 20 years.
So, based on not historically what we've done on a 60-40 split on our assets,
No, you can't use historical performance to judge future
we
expectations.
shouldn't use just so I'm clear, we shouldn't use historical performance of funds to predict the future, right?
Correct, especially short-term performance.
Is that why the last time I asked you this question, you reduced it from 8% to 7.5?
We reduced it 5 years ago from 8% to 7.5.
That's the question, like I'm doing tonight.
Right.
And what I'm telling you is we're at 6.5%.
Well, it depends on what period.
I'm sorry, 6.1. In fact, we've never averaged 7.5. We've never averaged 6.5. On page 9 of your report for Fire 2, that's the one that's on the screen. You indicate that the city's projected contribution for 2016-2017 is $2.85 million for Fire 2. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on page 12 of your actual report, which is the larger document, it says employer contribution, this is page 12, in 2016 for Fire 2 is $2,981,000, almost $3 million. What you're saying our contribution in the slideshow you just gave us is $2.85 million. So I'm just wondering which one of your numbers is right.
Well, for this plan, we calculate a percentage of pay. So the 3215 on page 5 of my report is the certified contribution rate.
I'm looking at page 9, sir, what you just reported to the council.
And
And you reported that our projected city contribution is 2.85 million. And then you reported on page 12 of your report for 2016, and this is fire too, that it's 2.981 million, almost $3 million. So I don't know which number is correct. Which number is correct?
I'll have to go back and look. Clearly there's a typo in one of them. The numbers on the screen are just rolled forward to that with the payroll growth rate. This projection has more moving parts, and so that is why it's a little different, but that is, I'll go back and confirm it and let you guys know. But the contribution rate is what's certified in the report, not the dollar amount. 3215 is absolutely correct, and it's
So just so we're clear, is page 12 on your actual report correct, or page 9? I'm talking about what the city contribution is.
Right.
On page, you're saying there's a different number on page 5?
There's a contribution rate on page 5.
No, I'm talking about
actual dollar amount.
I'm talking the actual dollars.
There isn't, I don't know right now.
Well, you have two different numbers.
It's an estimate. The actual
How can there be two
contribution,
different estimates for the same number?
the actual contribution from the city will be actual payroll times 32.15%.
So which number is it? 2.85 million or almost 3 million? I'm just looking at your own reports.
Are they that different? I would say it's 2.9 million.
Are they that different?
The 32.15% times whatever your actual payroll is what you'll contribute. These are based on estimates of what we think your budget, your payroll will be that year.
Sir, I thought I asked a simple question. Could you tell me which one of your numbers is correct? What you reported on that screen of 2.85 million, or what you put in your report on page 12 of almost $3 million?
I believe the 2.981 is
So
more
not the number that was on the screen.
Correct.
The number that was here. Okay. Could we get, Ernie, could we get to screen number 9 so we know what we're talking about? So that shows that we actually went down minus 0.3%. But if we actually use the number that you gave us, we're going to go up, correct? On how much we have to contribute. It's not going to be 2.85 million. It's going to be almost $3 million.
Assuming the 2.86 doesn't have the same consistency error, the 2.85.
Sir, you just told me that you believe your number on page 12 is accurate of $2,981,000 and 993. Well, 2,981,993. If that's not the accurate number, can you tell us? I mean, because we have 2.85 million on the screen and 2,981,000 on another page, and you're telling us it's going down when our contributions are actually going up. So which one is it?
The 2,981 is the right number.
Okay, so our contributions are going up. That slide's wrong. Thank you. And that would mean that one line item is going up 4.2%, not going down. Now, our independent auditor's report for fiscal year June 30th, 2014, prepared by Parmalee, Poyer and Associates, LLP, indicates, and it has a section in there, it talks about and I'm going to read it, it's a quote, usually helps when you have quotes. The long-term rate of return on pension plan investments was determined using a building block method in which best estimate ranges of future rates of return are developed for each major asset class. These ranges are combined to produce the expected long-term rate of return by weighing the expected future rates of return by the target asset allocation percentage plus expected inflation. The best estimates of long-term rates of return by asset categories are summarized below. So this is what our independent auditors are suggesting for long-term expected rates of return. So on domestic equities, they're expecting 5.1% rate of return. On international equities, they're expecting a 5.7% rate of return, and on fixed income long-term rates of return, they're expecting 2.1%. And Parmalee goes on even further, and they actually calculated, instead of your suggested 7.5% rate of return, that if we calculated a more realistic 6.5% rate of return, which I consider conservative, since over 20 years we've never gone over 6.1 combined on all our plans. But if we shoot for 6.5 instead of 7.5, I'm sorry. If we shoot for 6.5 instead of 7.5, our liabilities go up by $65 million. So our funding ratios that you see on that chart for Police 1 and Fire 1 would go from 25% to 22%. Municipal funding ratio would drop from 75% to 68%. Police 2 funding ratio would drop from 89% to 81%. Fire 2 funding ratio would drop from 93% to 85%. And our overall pension funding ratio would fall from 60% to 54%. So just by taking the assumption that we're going to get 7.5% on our rates of return, we don't have to contribute if it was 6.5% rate of return. We wouldn't have to contribute an additional $65 million, correct?
No.
You're saying a rate of return of 7.5%.
Correct.
I'm asking you to assume a rate of return of 6.5%.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is that means our contributions would have to go up to everybody's pension plans if we assumed a lower rate of return, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not asking you to do that calculation in your head, but it comes out to about $65 million. Not to mention, if we dropped it down to 6.1, it'd be over $100 million, which is our actual rate of return for 20 years, which are the numbers that we were just arguing over, where you were saying it's 6.1 or 6.2, and I was saying that it was 5.6 on actual, what Fidelity Investment Advisors was telling us we actually received. And so when I look at these calculations, I'm very concerned about how we're funding these pension plans if we're again overestimating what we can expect in the market and what we've received over the last 10 years or 20 years. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. That's
Okay.
That's the largest risk you have.
Would you suggest, based on what we actually received, and I won't argue with you over what Investment Advisors is telling us based on a report in September or December or June, I'll use your numbers. Would you agree that a 7.5% rate of return is an overestimate of what we actually have been receiving over the last 10 years?
You have received less than 7.5% return.
According to your numbers, it was more like 6.2%, right?
Correct.
6.1 over a 10-year period. And I'm just looking at the third quarter and fourth quarter of all pension plans, which I know isn't part of your report. And I'm looking at Police 2 going down $10 million in the third quarter, Municipal going down almost $7 million, Police 1 and Fire 1 going down almost $4 million, and Fire 2 going down almost $3 million in one quarter. That doesn't include the fourth quarter or the hit that we all took in January, which is staggering. And when our pension actuaries came before us, we talked about the unfunded liability in healthcare, which I think is $300 million. And that's completely unfunded.
Right.
And I've asked you this question again, but I think that it's important because I asked the actuary from healthcare, when's the point of no return for us? When can we afford or not afford to make these pension plan contributions? Because we don't have enough money to make the contribution. And the healthcare actuary told us we're already at that point. We were supposed to put in last year $23.1 million into our healthcare actuary fund. We put zero. He told us we're already at the point of no return. And I asked you a few years ago on what we could afford to do. And I think your answer, but correct me if I'm wrong, was you don't tell us what we can afford to do. You just tell us what we have to do. Is that right?
Correct. So
Your numbers and the estimates of how much extra we have to pay next year, you're not telling us if we gain the stability of the account based on a 7.5% rate of return.
Correct.
And you're going to get back to us on the questions. Well, I think you actually answered the question,
Yeah,
which is the $2.9 million figure is accurate, and this one in this report isn't.
Right.
And I know you're the messenger, if you will, about what had happened or what happens in our pension plans. And I appreciate you standing up there and taking a lot of difficult questions. But you can see, from my perspective, based on your own testimony, that if we dropped our rate of return to what we've historically received, it would probably give us a more conservative estimate of what we need to put in to that pension plan, correct?
Yes, it's absolutely true that if you drop the investment return assumption, it is a more conservative assumption.
Thank you.